Hello, my name is Mark Leslie Lefebvre, and I'm here today at BookFest to talk to you about holding the power in the palm of your hand. And I'm talking about print book strategies for indie authors. So let's get started. We all know, particularly indie authors know, that ebooks are great, but there's still nothing quite like a physical book. Ebooks changed the industry for sure. They allowed new opportunities, new freedoms, new possibilities better than ever before in the history of publishing. And that's been a fantastic thing. But the reality is that in the general world, most people don't read. But of the people who read, the people who read are still reading more in print than they are in ebook. This does not mean that ebooks aren't growing dramatically and that there aren't authors who can make a complete living off of selling ebooks. But the bold reality is that if you're not paying attention to print books, you're missing out on the largest part of the book market. Ebooks are still no match for printed books. There's a stat from Statistica from 2023 that shows in various countries of the world the percentage of sales of the population that purchase an ebook versus a printed book. And this is just going back a couple years ago, 2023. And that is, you'll notice, Great Britain, Japan, where we know that digital is very popular in Japan, but still print books are outselling. You're looking at places like Spain and Australia, France, Canada and the US, and or China and the US, I should say. When you look at the US, you're seeing that ebooks represent like 20% of the population have purchased an ebook, but 30% of the population have actually purchased a print book. And so there's a huge part of the market that authors are missing out on if they're not getting into print books. Another stat from the Association of American Publishers is, hardcovers are about 35% of the market, paperbacks are about 36% of the market, ebooks are around 11% of the market. And audio is growing dramatically. It's still only about 11%, but it has a lot of way to go. And interestingly enough, this is mostly traditionally published books. So mass market used to be a dominant element for book sales. Even when I started in the 90s in book selling, mass market and hardcovers were the two primary editions, and then the other trade paperbacks were virtually non-existent except for literary titles. And it seems like the ebook space has taken over a significant chunk of what used to be mass market. So publishers are either doing trade paperbacks, hardcovers, and ebooks as well. But again, as you see that this is the big publishers. These are the big five publishers and thousands of other smaller publishers. That's the AAP, by the way, Association of American Publishers, are still showing primarily print sales. Even the Alliance of Independent Authors, which is indie authors, looking at, and this is stats from 2021, that print book sales are still on the rise. They increased in fiction, obviously graphic novels, which make more sense. There's still a better experience to read in print. Fantasy, science fiction, and even romance. Although romance is dominant in the ebook space, it still grew 30% back then. So again, showing that print is not dead. And one of the things that's important to remember when you're thinking about your book is your book is a billboard. It's visible. And a lot of authors focus a lot of their time and energy on digital marketing. So that's Amazon ads or BookBub ads or Facebook ads or ads on TikTok or any of those places where you're paying money for that book cover to appear so that somebody might click it and might buy your book. But when you're doing that, you're spending money on pushing your book, which is a billboard. The book cover is a billboard. I think it was Jim Bain from Bain Publishing who initially had said that decades ago. But it's only visible when you keep feeding the slot machine, when you keep throwing quarters or dollars or hundreds of dollars into the slot machine, then that book cover may come up, just like on a slot machine. When a physical book is in the world, even investing money in getting physical books into the hands of people, whether it's donations, etc., that book cover is a billboard. People can see that book. when someone's reading it on the bus, but they can't see that same book if you're reading it on a Nook or a Kobo or a Kindle or some other digital device or on your phone, for example. Now, that's one of the reasons why physical book sales are still so important is people reading physical books in public is advertising. You're not paying for that advertising. You may be paid to get that into a single person's hand, but that ongoing reading of the book, that book is visible whether they're reading it in public or whether it's a book that they see on a shelf or on a coffee table or something like that. Another thing to, as an author, there is nothing quite like walking into a bookstore or a library and finding one or more of your books on the shelves. Honestly, it is one of the most profoundly wonderful experiences as an author. It's almost like that time when you get the box of books from your publisher or the ones that you've printed yourself from the print on demand company, and you open the box and you see that baby for the first time and you get to touch your book. That sort of wonderful feeling you have. It's a similar feeling when you walk into a bookstore or a library and manage to see your books on the shelf there. Now, being self-published doesn't mean that you can't get into bookstores or libraries. That's something that's very important to remember. Having a publisher, having a traditional publisher with actual warehousing and print distribution may make getting books into bookstores and libraries easier, but in either case, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're working with a publisher, it's still about a relationship that you have to curate and you have to nurture. And I'm going to get into some strategies on how and what you can try or might want to attempt to adapt into your repertoire of marketing techniques to help you with that. So, in a nutshell, at the high level, you have online listings, right? You have access. Indie authors have access to this as well. Now, physical bookstores are not likely to carry print-on-demand titles that are non-returnable, but they can special order them, and they are listed there for people to order for home as well. And other ways are, of course, consignment, and that's either using your author copies or a direct relationship with the store and bringing those in on consignment. But you can also think outside the box, and I'm going to get into that. Now, the high level thing that I want to ask you to think about, and yes, I'm riffing on JFK, is ask not what your local library or bookstore can do for you. Ask instead what you can do for your local library or your bookstore. And when you're looking at print on demand options for authors, here are some of the high level options that you have available to you. So you have Kindle Direct Publishing has a print option, and that's Amazon's self-publishing platform. And this is great for Amazon Direct Publishing, but it's not at all good for distribution. They have an option there called extended distribution. I cheekily call it pretended distribution because the terms that they set it up when they end up going through Ingram to be available for the rest of the world are a dramatically short, reduced discount. Bookstores get like a 5% discount, which is not attractive to them at all. And obviously, bookstores and libraries are not as interested in ordering books from a competitor that kind of seems to be working to put them out of business, or seems to have been a side effect of a lot of their business practices as well. So Kindle Direct Publishing print is fantastic for print. It's free. You get decent margin because there's no in-between people as well. And it's wonderful for getting your book on Amazon. But for getting your book beyond Amazon, you've got sort of four main choices. I mean, there's more, but Ingram Spark, probably the Cadillac of print-on-demand tools, and it's fantastic for print. I would never use it for ebooks, by the way. You also have Draft2Digital Print, which is a free tool option as well. You have B&N Press, and you have a Publish Drive. Those are four of the major players to get involved in. I think Ingram Spark's probably one of the best ones out there, but there are some free alternatives as well. And I know Draft2Digital Print, which I'm going to walk through an example for that for you to show you how it is. But only use one of those options. They all use Ingram Lightning Source Print on Demand. So if your book's set up at Ingram Spark, you don't need to set that print book up at D2D Print or B&N Press or Publish Drive. Now, one of the challenges with B&N Press is you're set up just to get the book on Barnes& and Noble. It's locked in with Ingram through Ingram's Lightning Source, and you can't use that same ISBN on any of the other platforms. So that's something to be aware of. But with Ingram Spark, with D2D Print, and with Publish Drive, if you're using one of those, you can get it onto all the platforms, including Barnes and Noble. There are other options for print as well. Lulu has some great resources as well. Book Vault for those custom special editions, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, and even local printers, which I'm also going to talk more about. But I want to just give a brief example and show you some screenshots of D2D Print, just to give you an idea of how to go set that up. So when you're logged into your Draft2Digital dashboard at draft2digital.com, you click on Add a New Book, you load the content, and then you walk through the process of your metadata, entering your title and the series information, if it's part of a series, the description, the categories, like what subject areas in the bookstore it's going to go to, some keywords as well, the publication date. Once you've loaded your Word document, there's a system that will try to break that down and show you, hey, are these your chapters? And shows you a chapter layout, as you can see in the middle screen. And if the chapters are wrong, there's a really handy button that says, help, these aren't my chapters. And you can go back and say, oh, look for bold text that's centered and larger. And you see examples of different ways it may want to interpret your Word document into a properly formatted chapter broken down book. Also, if you neglected to add end matter or front matter, like a title page, copyright page, dedication, etc., there's an option for you to add that and to key in what you want to key in there, as well as about the author, about the publisher, etc., or even also buys, like other books by you with universal book links as well. And then once you're ready and you go to the next step, you can choose from one of 21 different templates, where it gives it kind of a professional feel, where you can even add drop caps or fancy headers and things like that to your chapters, just to make it look somewhat like a professionally designed book. And again, this is free. Again, it's very customizable, which is handy. There's even poetry templates, because poetry doesn't adhere to the same standards of justified text, etc., etc. In poetry, the poet controls where the lines begin and how they look and where they are placed on the page. So poetry gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of sticking to the initial style that you might have used in your Word document, but you can still pick some of those fancier options for headers, etc. And then, if you don't have a full print cover wrap, Draft2Digital will create an automated cover wrap for you. It'll take the predominant color in your front cover. It will do a machine perfect cover wrap for you, the perfect lined up spine. If the spine's thick enough, if there's enough room for text, it'll allow you to control and add that text on the spine, as well as control, do you want an author photo on the back, yes or no? What do you want it to be? And then what format and fonts do you want for the back of the book? And there's, again, a machine perfect ISBN. Whether you provided your own ISBN or you used a free ISBN from Draft2Digital, that barcode will be placed there for you, and it's, machine perfect, so it's perfect for printing and selling. When you get to the publish screen, you have an opportunity to set your price. You'll see what the print cost is, and then you can move on to that next screen and push that out into the world. Of course, you'll get an opportunity to print an author copy and have it shipped to you. It won't have any weird banner on it that says not for resale. That author copy is the same copy that will be released to the world when you're ready to release. You can approve it digitally, or you can just push that out into the world if you're already comfortable with the process and you understand this and you've seen it before. Now, when it comes to strategies, I want to get into some strategies that you can use. Again, just kind of show you the high level how to get a print book out there, but let's talk about some strategies as well. So I'm a big fan of leveraging online platforms and making your book available in as many formats in print as possible. And so, I mean, yes, potentially you've got the ebook, potentially you've got the audiobook, but also making the book available in multiple formats. So not just a trade paperback, but a hardcover and a large print. And again, that just makes your book accessible to even more readers. And again, the tools are free to use. So another strategy that you may want to consider. So when I set up my books, I usually use Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP Print. I usually will use either D2D Print or Ingram Spark to get those print books distributed out there globally through Ingram's, international wholesale system for print-on-demand books. But I often like to order my author copies via either one of those platforms, or I use a local printer and I support a local business. So, for example, several of my books that I've set up online and are available print on demand online through those online platforms, I'll take the same print files and I'll go to my local printer. So, here in Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario, where I live, M&T Printing has been around for well over 40 years. They're a local business, and I love supporting local business. And my books can be available there. So not only do I have a relationship with a small business that's in town, but I also don't have to worry about shipping. I'll get a call when my proof copy's ready, and it's about 10 blocks away. I can get down there and check it out right away. So that's another strategy. Speaking of local, one of the strategies you can potentially use is via your local bookstore. Is ordering your author copies through a local bookstore. So some of my books, which are traditionally published, I can order, and I have ordered through a local bookstore where I have an agreement with them where they either give me some sort of discount. Sometimes it's their staff discount. Sometimes it's a bulk sale discount where I can order a bunch of copies that they get in from my publisher, and they give me usually a 20 to 30% discount off of the retail price so I can have those author copies for resale. And my publisher will sell them to me for 40% discount. And that may be a bit bigger discount, but the shipping costs may remove that. So getting them from that local bookstore, not only, the books, the publisher sells those to the bookstore and they're a guaranteed sale because I'm buying them immediately. They don't even have to unbox them. It can be a pass-through sale. The bookstore, even if they're giving me a 30% discount, they're still making a 10% margin. So they're earning money. I'm putting money into my local community, and that ends up counting as a sale on those books to the publisher, which fulfills the agreements in terms of the advance that they may have given you as well. So you're supporting your publisher, you're supporting a local small business, and you're getting those author copies that you can get into your hands. Now, another strategy I've leveraged with bookstores is, and I just did this recently, is a bookstore recently brought in a bunch of my books to do a Halloween signing with a bunch of my True Ghost Story books as well. And they had these books in stock. And so 6 different titles, and they brought in a decent number of copies of each. Now, we sold quite a few, but there were still several left. So I signed the copies that were left, and I asked the manager, please call me when you get, because they're about to go through Halloween season, so potentially they'll sell more, and potentially the Christmas season, where that's the sales are the best for bookstores. But when January comes and they're getting ready to do their returns for that next buying season of books, I ask them to call me and let me know if they have any stock left, and I'll come in and purchase them. And they agreed to give me a staff discount on those books. So again, doing a favor to the local bookstore, knowing they're not going to be stuck with extra stock should they not end up selling all of the copies that they brought in for that special event, etc. So that's another strategy you may want to consider with a bookstore. Another option, and this is a strategy that a client and friend of mine, James Fell, has used very successfully, both when he was self-published as well as working with a major publisher like Penguin Random House, is he has a great website that a lot of people go to, and he has universal book links to all the various retailers that the book's available at. But he says if you want a signed copy of your book, you have to order it directly from his favorite local bookstore. He has a partnership with Owl's Nest Books, and on his website, he has a link that takes you to Owl's Nest. They will ship anywhere in the world, and you can request a customized signed copy, like to Mark, what do you want? What do you want written in the book? And what happens is when they get those orders, they say, "Hey, James, can you come and sign this book for Mark and ship it off?" And they do that. And that creates a really great strategy because not only is he supporting that local small business, they all already have the facilities to ship those books. So that's a really great strategy that you can use. And also, several retailers like Owl's Nest is part of a major network of independent bookstores that report their sales to places like the Globe and Mail and the Calgary Times and other places as well. So all of those sales that are kind of could have been direct author sales where James may have made more money, James reduces the fact that he has to worry about packaging and shipping and all the manual labor involved in that. So he's willing to take a bite on the margin just to get those books out there, but he's also supporting that local bookstore, which is also very crucial. I mentioned earlier those special, or bespoke editions that authors can make using platforms like Book Vault, for example, to create these really beautiful, special, customized editions like faux leather binding, rainbow foil, colorized chapter headings, ribbon bookmarks, just beautiful interior pages like the end pages as well. And that's something that you can use those for, and also potentially use platforms like Kickstarter to get people to support those books that you want to make available, those special custom editions as well. So that's another way that you can leverage print in a positive way. A few other strategies to consider. So when your book is out, whether it's a book that's for the traditional publisher or whether it's a book that you self-publish, when you're doing events at bookstores and libraries, I'm showing some pictures, some examples. So some various books of mine that were available when I was launching Tomes of Terror, which is a book of ghost stories about libraries and bookstores. I created some t-shirts. And I was doing a lot of events in Hamilton, Ontario at the time at the various libraries. So when I went in to do a talk, you can see myself and my skeleton Barnaby Bones, and I used that as marketing. Is I had tomesofterror.com, the website for the book, with links to all the retailers and an image from the book cover. And then on the back, it said, "I love to haunt Hamilton Public Library," and then their website. And then, what's your favorite bookish haunt? And then similarly at a fantastic independent bookstore in Ottawa, Ontario, Perfect Books, when I was doing an event there for Creepy Capital, Ghost Stories of Ottawa, I did a similar thing where the book cover's on the front and the back it said, "I love to haunt Perfect Books." I had their website. And again, asking people, what's your favorite bookish haunt? Now I created a bunch of these t-shirts. I brought them to the library. I brought them to the store and I gave them to the management or the owners or the librarians and said, "Here's some shirts. Maybe your staff might want them for free. Maybe there's local patrons that you know are interested in these kinds of books as well." Because the t-shirt not only advertised my book, but it also advertised the bookstore. It also advertised the library. And that's just a strategy that you can create with marketing materials that gives your bookstore, gives your library something special that's connected to you and your books, but gives them something that they can give to their patrons, which is important. Other things you can consider is take a look at other partnerships that you might be able to do. Are there themes, are there brandings, are there topics, are there subjects that tie in really, really well with your book? What can you do? Who else can you involve? So when I was launching Creepy Capital at a few different bookstores, chain and independent bookstores in Ottawa over the weekend, I partnered with the local Ghostbusters team. Now, because this was a book of ghost stories, it made sense. So I had Barnaby, my skeleton, with me, and I had various people from the Ghostbusters team who love dressing up in that cosplay coming in. So that gave the bookstore something of an attraction for kids to come and get their pictures taken with a Ghostbuster as well. Even if they didn't buy the book, it was drawing people into the bookstore, which is really good. And that's something that the managers and the staff want when you're doing a book event. They want it to be successful. They want people to show up. So giving them some extra element that's tied in somehow to your book can be a way of bringing them into the store. Other things just to remember, just like I talked about those special edition books as well that aren't necessarily online, is think about local options for selling books and even non-book locations as well. There are various, I'm a big craft beer fan, so there's various books and brews or beer and books events that are held at breweries all over the place. One brewery in Hamilton, Ontario, for several years over the summer had a local craft and farmers market that they held right in the parking lot area of the store, and you could get a booth for $25 for from 11 in the morning until 5 p.m. and set up your tent and sell your wares there. And the other great thing about being at a non-book event or a non-book location is I was the only bookseller there. So we had local farmers, we had local crafts, local artists, the various food vendors that were there. I was the only book vendor that was there. So anyone who was interested in books was immediately drawn to my booth. So that hopefully gives you some ideas on some of the things that you can do with print books and just how important print books still are, yes, even in this digital age. So, I hope you found that valuable, and I hope that you found new ways to put the right book into the right reader's hands at the right time. Thank you very much, and a huge thank you for BookFest for putting on this amazing event and allowing me to speak at it.